Hello. It's Saturday, January 28th, 2023. My name is Terry Morgan, and I'm here to read just a little part of my story, The Ambassador. This particular scene is from book 2. So, a little out of order for right now, but it's book 2. Chapter 3, 5 Become One. In the stillness of night, a whimper is louder than a scream, if only the heart can hear. Evening sounds. It was almost sunset when Micah and Biani left the village and started back to the training compound. The raised dirt road was more than wide enough for several people. Deep gullies were cut on each side to take the rain. On one side of the road there was an orchard. On the other side, a field of barley. Biani had a long staff across her shoulders with 2 bags of rice on each end and a bushel of green vegetables on her back. Several small bags hung across her shoulders. Micah had a long staff across her shoulders with oranges and potatoes on each end, a long bag of peanuts wrapped around her neck, and a bushel of noodles on her back. Biani slowed her step. "Wait just a minute, Micah. I need to adjust these bags," she said. "We got a lot today." She bent her knees to lower the bags to the ground and took the pole off her shoulders. Micah put her bags down too. "Enough for several weeks if we're careful," she said. "What do you think, 40 minutes?" she asked. Biani shook her head. "I don't think it will take us that long. Besides, it's going to be dark soon. I'd rather not be out here. The crickets are already starting to make a lot of noise," she said. Micah laughed. "You should hear them at midnight," she said. "They keep me awake sometimes." They both chuckled. Biani sat down. "The market was so crowded today. It's nice to be out here where it's quiet," she said. Micah grinned. "You just complained about the crickets," she said. Biani smiled. "You know what I meant," she said. Micah looked puzzled. "No, I don't," she replied. "You sound like Master Ty." Biani shook her head. "Think about what we were listening to in the village. So many people talking all at the same time, all going here and there with their different activities, so much noise. Compare that to what we can hear now. It's so quiet, all we hear are the crickets." Micah smiled at her. "Okay, I take your point," she said. "Wait. Listen." "What's that?" she asked. She stood up and looked around. Biani stood up and turned her head from side to side. "That way," she said, pointing toward the orchard. "Hold on." Micah and Biani ran to the edge of the road and looked down into the gully. It was easily a 10-foot drop. The sides were not solid. They slid down and stood up. Micah looked at Biani. "Which way?" she asked. Biani closed her eyes, lowered her head, and slowed her breathing. She looked up. "There," she said, pointing to a cluster of tall weeds. Micah got there first. "It's Maru," she said. "She's barely breathing." Maru's face was cut and bloody and so swollen she looked like she had no eyes. "Micah," Maru said, "I can't move. I'm hurt." "So I see," Micah said. "Shh. We're here," she said, gently brushing Maru's hair with her hand. Biani knelt down next to Maru. "Oh, no. No," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Maru, who did this to you? What's happened?" she asked. Maru turned toward Biani and passed out. Micah looked at Biani. "One of us has to go get Galen," she said. She took off her outer tunic and put it over Maru. Biani shook her head. "No. We need to get her out of here," she said. Micah nodded. "Okay. Go hide the food, bring the poles," she said. Biani nodded. She used her skills to make herself light and quickly climbed up to the road. She buried everything but the small bags, noodles, and vegetables. Then she picked up the poles and mostly slid back down to where Micah was sitting with Maru. She took off her outer tunic and put the poles through the sleeves. Then she picked up Micah's tunic and put the poles through it so there was an overlap. She tried to separate them. "That will hold," she said. She looked at Micah. How do we get Morrow up to the road? She asked. Micah looked at Biani. When you went up, how long before you started to slide? She asked. Biani shook her head. Before my weight reached half. It's sand, she replied. Micah nodded. Come sit here with Morrow. I need to take a look, she said. Biani crawled up next to Morrow on the ground. She wrapped her arm above Morrow's head and leaned over her to keep her warm. I got you, sis. I got you. I'm here. I got you, she whispered. Micah returned. I tried a couple places. It's all the same, she said. She looked at Biani and then at the top of the slide. Take the stretcher up and come back, she said. Biani got up. What are you thinking, Micah? She asked. I'm going to carry her, Micah said. Biani looked at the sides and shook her head. I barely made it. We have to find another way. With Morrow, you won't make it. You will both fall, she said. Micah stood taller, squared her shoulders, and looked hard at Biani. You will be behind us. You are nimble and strong. You will not let us fall, she said. Biani took a deep breath and nodded. She took the stretcher up and returned quickly. Micah knelt down next to Morrow. She gently moved her arms so they crossed her chest. Morrow, I need to pick you up. Try to be small and light, she said, as she slid her arms into Morrow's back. Morrow winced. Other side. Hurts, she said. Micah moved to Morrow's right side. Okay, she asked. Okay, Morrow said. Her head dropped against Micah's shoulder. She passed out again. Micah tucked her arm under Morrow's knees, pulled her close, and stood up carefully. Rest on me. I've got you. I've got you, she whispered. Micah looked at Biani. Biani nodded. Let's go, Micah said. She took a deep breath and settled her weight, blending it with Morrow's to center through both of them. She looked at the side of the gully where Biani had been. She could see the trail. She took another breath. She left almost no footprints as she went up the side. She reached the top with Morrow safely cradled in her arms. Biani was just behind them. How did you? She asked. Micah smiled. Same as you, she replied. Morrow helped. Let's get her settled. Micah's knees wobbled and her arms shook as she knelt down to gently lower Morrow onto their makeshift stretcher. Biani looked at her sideways. No, you did way more than me, she said. Micah stood up and pointed to the small bags, noodles and vegetables. We need to bring these or we'll lose them, she said. She set two of the small bags across her shoulders and picked up the noodles. Then she knelt down and took hold of the poles in the front. Biani nodded. She picked up the vegetables and put the other two small bags across her shoulders. She knelt down and took hold of the back. Ready, she said. They stood up together. Micah turned her head to look at Morrow. She looked at Biani and tightened her jaw. Let's go, she said. She set a quick pace. Morrow began twitching back and forth as they ran. Micah, not so fast. It's too bumpy for her, Biani said. Micah slowed down. Shift her weight to your shoulders, she said. Let your arms take the bumps. Keep your elbows in and your shoulders down. Biani adjusted her arms and looked down at Morrow. Much better, she said. Micah took a deep breath. Good. Can we pick up the pace, she asked. Yes, Biani replied. They ran faster. They get her back to the training compound and start taking care of her. There are several things that happen next time. Thank you.